and welcome. And with any express entry draw that happens, obviously we are all extremely excited. But this particular draw that happened, which was pretty decent, of course, this week, I was a bit concerned. I'm not sure how many of you out there are equally concerned, but if you were to see and if you would see what I'm seeing, obviously you would be equally concerned as well. And I'm sure there are plenty of you out there who are raising a bit of an eyebrow and saying, what exactly is going on? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the express entry pool breakdown. Well, first of all, first things first, we were so thankful. IRCC, thank you so much for conducting these draws back to back. I wouldn't say back to back because it wasn't happening every week. So at least they were consistent. It was a bi-weekly draw. It was a CEC draw. They continued to issue 3,000 invitations. For a change, we are being thankful to IRCC for being consistent, which they should have been doing already. But no, nowadays we even reward the standard, right? I mean, look at our standards, what we are thanking IRCC for, just to be consistent. Thank you, IRCC. Now, in order to be in the fact that they were consistent, what that has done is that we had 9,000 invitations in Canadian Experience class in Express Entry that were issued in a period of less than a month. It's about 28 days, which is pretty cool. Is it something new? Of course not. IRCC has been conducting draws since 2015. They have, on several occasions, maintained consistency. They have been conducting draws fairly regularly from there on. But over the last couple of years, that pretty much has been jinxed. That rule of consistency was a bit broken. We didn't really see, we've seen a start-stop kind of a model, and therefore, here we are thanking IRCC for being consistent. 9,000 invitations. Why is this so significant? Why is IRCC's being consistent so significant? The reason is because if they don't conduct the draws, then the pool distribution keeps going up, right? We see the number of people in the pool go up significantly, which basically means that the people who have been anxiously hoping, praying, waiting for an ITA, they probably don't get a chance, and they don't get a chance at all because the scores never come down to that level. There are a lot of you out there who are data enthusiasts, right? Who like to analyze IRCC's data, who likes to figure out what is going on in IRCC's mind. And I'm sure you'll all agree that this has happened on several occasions. Whenever IRCC has put a break on the draws and the consistency is not as it should be, the scores have gone out of reach, out of hand, out of control. Most recently witnessed because IRCC put a big gap of almost 3 months and did not conduct consistent draws, and therefore the scores are just not happening as they should be happening. What can we expect, right? That is something which is more on top of your heads as to what has already happened, because what has already happened is already gone. We already know about that. Well, what's happening? Will IRCC remain consistent? I don't know. I'm sure hoping so, that they remain consistent, but will they do it or not? I don't know. And how does that impact? We are now officially in the second part of the year. The minute you go into the second part of the year, what starts happening is that the majority of the invitations that are now being issued are predominantly towards the quotas or immigration targets for the next year. Why? Because on an average, IRCC will take about 6 months. We know it's slightly more than that, but 6 months, right, to process the applications. Currently, they have several thousand applications in their inventory. Now, if they have that in their inventory and then they're processing these applications, means they need to meet the immigration targets for this year. At the beginning of this year, they already had nearly 70,000 applications in their inventory, and then they obviously continue to issue the draws, and they have sent out more than 50,000 invitations. I don't know, less than 50, but that many invitations already. And that being said, they have pretty much already met this year's immigration targets. That's something which I'm quite certain about in terms of the way the numbers are. Now, whatever invitations would, again, I can't be absolutely certain from which month onwards, because that number is never publicly available, even through the IRCC's open data sources. But let's say July, August, September. Within any of these 3 months, there is a point of time when the number of invitations that are being issued or the draws that are being issued are predominantly for, or larger part for the PR targets for the following year. Now, PR targets for the following year, for the next year, as we are all aware, the targets are slightly lower, right? By 15,000 overall. So this year it's 390,000, then it's 385,000, then it's 365. So I keep forgetting the numbers off and on, but you get the gist. Express entry is directly linked to the PR targets under FHS, Federal High Skilled. Okay, you can see that on the immigration levels plan that you can see on the IRCC website. With these numbers being the way they are, obviously IRCC will be issuing, the reason why I'm telling you all this is that IRCC will be issuing fewer ITAs in comparison to what it may have issued last year, because they have fewer targets to meet for the next year. Now, this year's targets for FHS, Federal High Skill, actually more than what they were for last year. So therefore, I'm expecting at least the number of invitations would have compensated for the increase, because the quotas went up by about 7,000. 124,000 was for this year, 2025. 2024 was about 117,000. And then for next year, it's again about that number, 117,000 kind of a number. So that numbers are always fluctuating, but it is also anticipated that next year, somebody is going to talk sense to the government, and hopefully they will replenish the PNP quotas. But if PNP quotas are replenished, because this year, I'm not sure how many of you have realized, I'm sure most of you have realized that the PNP quotas are at 55,000, which is 50% of what it was last year. Last year was 110,000. This year is 55,000, 50% less. And if they are 50% less, that impacts everybody who is not going to get through with express entry. And largely people who are inside Canada, because they get the bulk or the chunk of these quotas. So next year, the expectation is that this 55,000 will go back to somewhere around 110,000. And if they do go back to 110,000, that number, 55,000 jump, has to be compensated somewhere, right? It has to be, that gap has to be filled from somewhere. And because IRCC has already started their stakeholder discussions with regards to planning their quotas for 2026, 2027, 2028, therefore, and I'm sure all the provinces are set with IRCC, and they've made it, I mean, it's public knowledge. Most of the premiers of individual provinces have actually said it out loud that they would appreciate if IRCC gives them back their quotas. Not only gives them back their quotas, but also increase it. Ontario is not happy. Their quotas went from 20,000 something to right down to 10,000. Alberta is not happy. They came down to 4,000. BC PNP not happy, 4,000. Saskatchewan not happy, 4,000. And if the federal government is going to increase their quotas, or if not to the previous number, but at least to some degree of that number, you can absolutely expect that number will have to be adjusted somewhere. And if that number has to be adjusted within the express entry, with the FHS, then the number of ITAs that are going to be issued, going to be drawn out, are even going to be fewer. Because at this point of time, IRCC is not aware, or rather even they don't know what that final number is, because we are still in the month of July. We still have 4 months to go before this announcement can be made. Announcement will be made 31st of October or 1st of November. Last year, it happened a bit earlier. I think it happened on 23rd of October. Mark Miller was in a rush to get that information out. But let's say last week of October is when you can expect. If not, then 1st November is when you will expect this announcement to come. And because even IRCC is not aware whether that number is going to increase, drop, or what's going to happen, therefore, expect that IRCC is going to be at some point of time more cautious in issuing out invitations. Now, even if they continue with 3,000 invitations, how many draws are we anticipating, right? We are already in the month of July. We have predominantly 6 months more to go in this year. Even if we expect bi-weekly draws, like one draw every 2 weeks, you expect roughly 12 draws, if I'm not wrong, 12 draws. One has already happened in July. So 11 draws. Out of these 11 express entry draws that we are anticipating, of course, there has to be some category draws as well. Now, if there are going to be category draws, then in that particular week, there is also a possibility that IRCC may not conduct a CEC specific draw. If they do not conduct a CEC specific draw, it basically means that the number of draws for CECs only falls further down. Would you agree with me, right? So let's say in the next 6 months to come, IRCC will have 4 draw weeks where they would conduct only a category draw, right? We have French category, which obviously is expecting some more big chunks of draws to be issued. As of right now, IRCC is probably taking it easy with the francophone draws, largely because in February they overdrew, right? They sent out 18,500 invitations only for French. So right now it's pretty much a balancing act that they don't want to sort of keep completing their quotas right at one go. They want to hold some back so that the pool replenishes with better quality candidates with a higher score, so then they can start issuing out invitations again. But so French, there's a draw absolutely anticipated, should happen at any point of time. We still haven't seen a category draw for trades. We haven't seen a category draw for STEM. We haven't seen a category draw for the food and agriculture. And I'm absolutely certain there should be at least one more draw each for healthcare and education. Education, I'm not sure because it was a new category. We do not know how many invitations they were thinking. But healthcare has been ridiculously low, only 500,000 invitations issued. Previous year, they were at least better than that. So I anticipate, I expect, I'm hoping that these category draws would continue. So whenever there's a category draw in that particular week, there is a possibility, again, I do not know for sure, but possibility that IRCC may not conduct CEC draw for that particular week, or they may conduct a smaller size draw, if at all they do it. We've seen it in the past, right? We've seen it happening several times. If they have issued a category draw for that week, they have not conducted a CEC draw, which basically means then there will be a larger gap in the express entry draws from one CEC draw to another CEC draw. And whenever the gaps happen, and that's what I've been trying to tell you, the pool breakdown is something which is so speculative that we don't know what's going to happen with the pool breakdown, and that pretty much goes out of hand again. The reason why I'm telling you all this, why I'm giving you all this gyan, or I'm sharing with you my thoughts about all this process, is something strange happened this week with the express entry draw. And I'll show you. Actually, you know what? Let's get started with our weekly roundup so we can get to it very, very quickly. Discussion express entry. So express entry, of course, the first on 7th of July, there was draw number 349, 356 candidates invited with a score of 750. This was a PNP specific draw, means people had received 600 points in their applications for the provincial nomination. But obviously, all of you already know you're not really interested in this one. You're interested in this one. 8th of July, 3,000 invitations issued. 518 was the express entry CRS score, which was a big sigh of relief because it was just not happening, right? But from 521, we came down to 518, which is good. But also, this is a snapshot of this last month's 1 month worth of draw. 12th of July, Canadian Experience Class 3,000. 26th of June, 12th of June, 3,000. 26th of June, 3,000. 8th of July, 3,000. 9,000 invitations issued in less than 1 month, and the score dropped from 5 to 518. 10 points drop in 1 month after 9,000 invitations. Why is all of this so important? Now, this is where the concern is. This is where I'm a bit of a tizzy, if you would want to call it. Look at the pool breakdown. At a 501 to 600, on 23rd of June, when the score had dropped to 521, the pool breakdown before the draw. These pool breakdowns are always before the draw. So this pool breakdown before the draw was 22,947, which basically meant that when the draw happened, which was on the 23rd of June, which was on the 26th of June, the pool breakdown is as of 23rd of June, 3,000 ITAs were issued. So this number 22,947 should ideally have read 19,947 at least, or give or take few. So let's say the pool would have been 20,000. From 20,000, we obviously anticipate that number of people will keep getting added into the pool. And we have seen it over the last few weeks after the LMIA points have been taken away. The number of people who get added into the pool are not that large. That number is not that big, and it hasn't been that worrisome. But this time, what has happened is from 20,000, the approximate number, it is still showing 22,591 now, which basically tells you that more than 2,500 people got added into the pool again within the span of 2 weeks. Why is this worrisome? This 2,500 profiles used to get added into the pool earlier when people were getting LMIA points, when people were getting the job offer points, 50 points, it was encouraging a lot of people to indulge in scam activities, fraudulent activities of buying and selling LMIAs. And that was seen as one of the big reasons why this pool was getting inflated. But now that there are no 50 points for the job offers or arranged employment points, how did 2,500 plus, we don't, exact number are never going to be known, but 2,500 plus profiles, how did so many people come into the pool? Now, this was the big question. First, I thought maybe it was a bit of a, it was an error. It was some sort of mistake. It was some sort of glitch. And all of these thoughts kept coming to my mind. But then when you started looking at it more closely, if there has to be a glitch, it should be across the pool, right? I mean, not only in that, or maybe IRCC did not update the pool. Then you would say, okay, this would be only, it would be across the pool, but it's not across the pool. It's only at 501 to 600 where this number is a bit off. Why is this number off there? And then when you start thinking more and more, and then you start realizing that over the last 1 year, people have become smarter. People have understood. People have realized what they can, what they can't do or should be doing. And whether you like it or not, once people were aware, either they could not buy an LMIA, or they couldn't afford to get an LMIA, or they couldn't afford to find an employer or a job offer, they started looking at alternatives. People were completing their foreign work experience. People were getting their certificate of qualification. People were learning French. And as and how those people are now becoming successful with those activities, those actions, you now have an opportunity to see those scores. And then and the further complications have also come up with IRCC. What has IRCC done is, and I'm not sure how many of you follow a very good friend of mine who is an immigration lawyer, Stephen Murins. And Stephen Murins very recently posted another ATIP notes through which he obtained information from IRCC, where IRCC has clarified or mentioned they will, or rather as an applicant, you can claim concurrent work experience. Now, what does concurrent work experience mean, and why is it so important in this aspect of things? Concurrent work experience means that while you are working in Canada and gaining points as Canadian experience, at the same point of time, within that 1 year, if you are also working for an employer outside Canada, which is foreign work experience, you can show it in your profile. And with that, showing it in the profile, you can also claim foreign work experience points. Now, I don't agree with it, and I'll tell you why I don't agree with it, and I've already shown it to you earlier. But IRCC has gone further to explain why the system allows it, and why at the stage when this when express entry policies were being designed, it was never thought that anybody would do something like this. But over the last 1 year, we know for a fact people have become desperate. People are frustrated. People have all become actually geniuses as well. They become very smart. They've tried to figure out different ways and loopholes and methods and whatever you want to call it to figure out how they can increase their points, how they can push their scores up. And they have. And when such kind of ATIP notes come out in the public, it encourages more and more people to do the same thing. So what has happened is, if I now told you, I mean, first of all, disclaimer, I still think you cannot claim, and I will just show you why you cannot claim points at the same time for why concurrent work experience points are not acceptable. And I will just show it to you before I jump on, because I know this will create a lot of problem for a lot of it will create a lot of issues for a lot of people. So these are the ministerial instructions that govern the express entry, right? If I jump right down, and I'm just going to quickly scroll down, sorry for this very quick scroll, but where does it talk about the foreign work experience and Canadian experience, right? It talks about here, section 24, combination of Canadian work experience and foreign work experience. First of all, your foreign experience, if you're already Canadian experience, so if you're CEC already, your need not be continuous, right? That's another wrong notion that people have. Even agents, consultants, lawyers also still are confused. They do not know this. Here, combination of Canadian experience and foreign work experience. They tell you what is foreign experience if you already have Canadian experience, because it is for the purposes of section 23 and 24. And sections 23 and 24 is basically combination of Canadian work experience and foreign work experience. Here it tells you is acquired by foreign national outside Canada in one or more occupations. And then it says full-time work experience with one or more employers. This by itself establishes it doesn't need to be continuous. It's a first myth out of the window. However, if I scroll down, this is the section which is the problematic one. Here, very, very clearly, this policy has identified for the purposes of section 23 and 24, a period of work experience that exceeds full-time work in one occupation. Okay. Or, and this is where it becomes interesting, or simultaneous periods of work experience in full-time occupation. So the ministerial instructions have clearly identified that if you are using concurrent work experience, simultaneous work experience of more than full-time, then they have to be evaluated as a single period of full-time work experience in a single occupation. Now, IRCC, in their response, what Stephen Murin's managed to obtain, has said that this basically is in regards to if you are looking at Canadian experience, then in Canada, you cannot have multiple full-time work experiences and claim multiple periods of work. But it doesn't apply to Canada experience as one, and then foreign work experience as one. And that is where the biggest confusion is coming from. And without this confusion, back here, so a lot of people who then took these kind of notes directly and said, okay, wait, hold on a moment. So if Stephen Murin, such an highly rated immigration lawyer, has posted this, and obviously it's coming from IRCC, and obviously so many other people have been making Instagram reels and YouTube videos and TikToks, etc., etc. So there must be some truth to it. So if IRCC is saying it, I should accept it. This law, which I've just shown you, is technically still law because it's still ministerial instructions which are governing express entry, is very clear as far as work in excess. Now, you may be extremely lucky if you claim concurrent work experience and you get away with it. And if you are one of those people, I would like you to make a post, I would like you to make a video, I would like you to sort of, announce to the world that this is what you managed to achieve, because that would be, that would then set a precedence for other people to follow. But I personally do not believe that this is possible for the reasons that I've just explained to you. But a lot of people did actually, and I know a few people who did do it because I do so many consultations in one day, and I can assure you a lot of people share all kinds of stories, all kinds of things which sometimes shock me. And there have been people over the last 1 week who have shared this experience with me, that once they saw that concurrent work experience can be claimed, they went into their express entry profiles, and earlier the experience that they had not shown in their work history, they have gone ahead and claimed it. Now, when they have gone ahead and claimed it, the system automatically gave them the points, because the system is designed in that manner. The system will allow you to take concurrent points. Now, that doesn't mean the officer would still give you those points, but the system allows it. Because the system allowed it, more people managed to create that number, or rather gain that number. Now, I do not know how many such people are there. I met a few. I cannot give you the number, but I met a few over the last few days who have done this, who were able to claim the points. Are there many more such people? I don't know. There's somebody who just mentioned something which I don't agree with, but then, I mean, of course, everybody has a way. Somebody said, I disagree with what you're saying. I still think there are tons of fake profiles. Of course, there will be some fake profiles or duplicate profiles, because people also create another express entry profile as an insurance that I have shown my spouse is not a company. What if I show another profile with a company? And I will probably use that if I get an ITA. So people do that as well. Not necessarily. Fake profiles is a lot of work, and it doesn't help somebody. And even if you do create a fake profile, how many fake profiles can you create, or how many people will create fake profiles? So while there may be a degree of truth to this fake profile business, I don't see it impacting the pool that much. Maybe a little bit here and there, of course, maybe a small percentage, but not. But the fact that, coming back to the point, that you had a 2,500 plus increase in the pool, it then tells you that this is going to be difficult, much more difficult than you have assumed it. So if there are about 8 to 9 express entry CEC specific draws in this year to go, and if so many people keep getting added into the pool, and if IRCC issues 3,000 ITAs, can you expect the scores to really plummet down? I would say no. Because if you have 22,591 people with score of 501 at plus 501 to 600, then you have to also understand that majority of these people are clubbed, are completely jammed at 501 to 510. That is where the majority of you guys are. And I'm sure if you start commenting right now and tell me what your scores are, you will very quickly see that most of you are sitting between 501, probably 510, 512, no more than that. So therefore, as the express entry draws continue, and IRCC issues 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 kind of invitations, then you will see scores dropping, of course, from 518, 515, 516, 513, 514, 510, 511. From there on, it will become more difficult. From 510 and below, it becomes more difficult. Now, somebody else said something else. It says, I believe it's due to the beginning of the month, which increases points for many applicants for most of the candidates who got 2 to 3 years of experience. Well, fair enough. But then it happens, I mean, every 30 days, we have a calendar month, right? Every 1 month, then the more people should get added, right? Because the points are getting updated. So this theory that you have does not hold true, because every 30 days we refresh, right? The calendar changes. So every 30 days, we should see a similar huge increase of profiles, which is not the case. So it has to be something else, because what you're talking about, the points going up, that is anticipated anyways. There are so many people who are waiting for their points to go up once they complete their 1 year of experience, 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience, 1 year of foreign work experience. So that is bound to happen. That is understood. That is the reason after every 2 weeks, you see 1,500 profile, 1,000 profiles getting added. But a jump of 2,600 only in this particular week, this particular month, that is what the concern is, and that's what we are referring to here. But here on, going forward, my only concern, and though I remain forever hopeful, and I'm still hoping IRCC may be holding a big draw somewhere, and I hope that comes out sooner, because of the gaps that will happen because of the category draws, and because of the number of people who are now going to be added into the pool, and because of more and more people adding foreign work experience, French points, additional Canadian experience points, better language scores, French language scores, because of so many such people who are doing all of these things, don't expect scores to drop below 500. I mean, I'm saying this because earlier this year I was very optimistic, I was very positive. I'm correcting myself here now, and only for the reason because of this big gap that IRCC put for 3 months. Had they continued, we probably would have seen the draws dropping faster, easily. But at this point of time, for the scores to even come down to the low 500s, even that is looking difficult. And why is that looking difficult? If every 2 weeks IRCC issues 3,000 ITAs, and somewhere there will also be a gap of the category draws coming in. Now, if every 2 weeks IRCC issues 3,000 ITAs, by the end of this year, even 8 draws with 3,000, there would be about 24,000 ITAs, which is approximately what I would anticipate IRCC to issues. 24,000 more ITAs. With 24,000 ITAs more for CEC, you'll say, well, hey, there are 22,000 people in the pool. Yes, there are 22,000 people in the pool, but every 2 weeks now, 2,500 people got added. I do not know what will happen after next 2 weeks. That will be very interesting to watch. But if about 1,000 to 1,500 people on an average keep getting added into the pool, which basically means over the next draw, over the next 8 draws, there are roughly how much? Give me a breakdown. About 12,000 people who will get added into the pool, and the 12,000 people will come getting added into the pool, and about 24,000 ITAs means at the end of the year, you will still have this pool breakdown sitting at about 12,000 some people. 12,000 all clubbed, it's all below 510. And if it is all below 510, so you're looking at that number of 501 to 506, 507, that's where the chunk of that numbers is. And that's why I am afraid that we may not see the scores going below that number for this year at least. Unless, of course, there is no gap in the draws. Of course, to continue consistently, we probably have a bigger, larger size draw, or we do a back-to-back draw, as in a week and a week after that and a week after that, instead of 2 weeks. With those unexpected, uncertain aspects or elements within the draw, yes, it's possible we see lower number, but if everything goes the way it is right now, might not happen. And if it doesn't happen this year, I do not know how it plays out next year, because keep in mind, we are already now targeting 2026 immigration quotas and no longer 2025 immigration quotas. So fewer quotas, fewer number of ITAs, and IRCC may want to then replenish the PNP quotas, and that 55,000 has to be adjusted somewhere, of which I'm assuming a portion will come towards the federal high skill. And with all of that, if you are in the low 500s, then you must do everything within your control to bump up your scores, even if it is retaking your IELTS. If you have to improve 1 factor points, then please do it. If you have to take French, please do it. If you have to take French to CLB5 just to get those 4 extra points, please do it. If you have to start your foreign work experience, please do it. If you have to get that extra 2 months of foreign work experience because you have 10 but you don't have the remaining 2, go back to your country, finish those 2 months of experience, and add that to your foreign work experience and get those points. Because if you don't lock in the points now, don't expect the next year's scores are going to go down. This is going to be pretty much the standard baseline now. 510 is become the baseline. That anything below that, you are in a danger zone. So therefore, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're watching this, then start thinking, start strategizing. Right. PNP draws, they happened this week. Thankfully, Newfoundland and Labrador conducted some draws. They issued 320 invitations, and they also issued AIP invitations. Pretty cool there. Manitoba also started, again, their draws, but not too many invitations. But again, because they have so many applications which are there in their processing inventory, and then they can only issue out 4,000 nominations. So not too many invitations issued, only 67 here in this case. British Columbia also issued out invitations, but this was for the entrepreneur immigration stream. 12 invitations were issued to the base stream with score of 121, and 5 invitations to the regional stream of 115. The regional stream is pretty cool. If you're looking to immigrate to Canada, if you're looking to invest in a business immigration, then British Columbia has a great program. Alberta also has a great program. Both of these, Alberta and British Columbia, have a rural renewal stream kind of a program where if you wish to start a business in a rural area, and only $100,000 for the business investment and $300,000 for the net worth. If you're interested, this might be the number for you. This might be the way to get through, and you might still be able to get your PR pathways if you do not have anything else going on in your favor. PNP update: Saskatchewan has increased the minimum wages to 15.35 starting October 2025. So whenever the wages go up, that's pretty cool. Canada's unemployment hits 7% as Ontario colleges slashes 10,000 jobs. Now, this one is a big one. Why? Because this is raising alarm bells, or rather, it's really, really making a lot of people nervous. More and more people are losing jobs within the Canadian education sector. I'm talking about the higher education, which is the institutions of colleges and universities, where more programs have been cut off. More people are being laid off, more people are being terminated because they just don't have the number of international students who are coming in, who are paying those big, heavy, hefty fees. And therefore, they don't have that kind of business anymore to keep it all going. So therefore, please think about it. And I personally feel at some point of time, they will have to go back to bringing the international students here. And the reason for that is because we can't do much without the international students. They can't get the cheap labor that they've been looking for always. Mark Miller has said cheap labor. Sean Fraser called it cheap labor. Marco Mendicino didn't mince his words. Business lobbies have already been clamoring that they can't find the people that they were looking for. Students, whether we like it or not, do form a huge part of this labor force. And as much as Canadians, as Canadians, we complain that, hey, our children can't find a job, we can't find a job, but none of us want to do the jobs that international students actually very happily, willingly do. So this is, at some point of time, you will mark my words. Okay, you can bookmark this video. You can bookmark this, what I'm telling you right now. International students will make a comeback. Maybe in a different way or shape or form, but it will make a comeback, whether we like it or not, because it does form a huge part of our economy. Quebec has stopped the sponsorship applications until 2026. Well, this is for people who currently live in Quebec. If you are looking to sponsor your spouse, well, Quebec has, because their immigration quotas under the spousal sponsorship, family sponsorship has already reached its number. They are no longer going to be they no longer will issue any CSQs, and they are also not going to accept any applications until June of 2026, which is next year, which is pretty harsh, because if you were living in Quebec, you're paying your taxes, you're doing your duty as a citizen, and you can still not get your family into the country because you're allowing it. That should see a lot of you leaving Quebec, going out to a different province, living there, and then making an application, because I don't understand why would you want to do it, because how difficult is it for you to leave Quebec, get an apartment in Ottawa, start living in Ottawa. You can work in Quebec, it doesn't matter, but you can live in Ottawa and then make an application anyways. So don't really see the sense of it, but hey, these guys know better. In the other news, IRCC has updated its proof of funds. This, again, proof of funds applies to people under two classes: federal skilled workers and federal skilled trade categories. You guys need to have your proof of funds sorted, especially if you don't have a job offer. If you have a job offer with an LMIA, which is for federal skilled trade categories largely, then you don't need to have proof of funds, but everybody else, proof of funds. And who does proof of funds will then apply to? Largely people who are coming to Canada under the Francophone immigration categories. And if you are a federal skilled worker, please update your proof of funds. If you're targeting as a federal skilled worker towards the category draws, the education, the skills trade, the healthcare, and you have your express entry profile, then please update your express entry profiles now itself before the 28th of July, because after that, the system will then render your profiles ineligible if your proof of fund number is less than this respective number. So for example, if you are a single person, then you must have 15,263 indicated in your express entry profile, which will say how much money will you bring to Canada. So you must mention 15,263 at least if you are a one person. If you are a family of two, then 19,000. If you are three, then 23,000, and so on and so forth. So please make sure you update that number, otherwise your profile will become ineligible. Temporary resident targets at risk as population remains high. Well, in contradiction to what I was saying earlier about international students making a comeback, apparently the number of temporary residents in Canada remains very high. And that remains very high is because by statistics, they are saying that people's study permits, work permits, visit visas, their temporary residence stays have expired. And by that, they should leave. But a lot of people are not leaving. They're applying for dummy extensions. They're applying for extensions. They're applying for bridge open work permits. They're getting LMIAs. They're getting work permits based on LMIAs. They are looking to apply for asylums. They're applying for TRP. They're applying for restorations. They're changing the status to visitors. All different ways of continuing to stay in Canada, which has resulted in the fact that the temporary residence numbers have not really gone down, but actually are about 7%, which is much higher than the 5% number they were looking at. So I'm not sure what other enforcement actions they are looking to take at this point of time, but I hope they do. Canada experiences sharp slowdown in the population growth. Now, this is in contrast again to what I was saying. That was for temporary residents. We're talking about permanent resident. The number of the amount of people coming to Canada by and large, including the temporary residents, the total population, which was rising like really, really crazy, is not rising as crazy as earlier. So all their measures that they've been trying to put into place are actually working. PGWP eligibility reinstated for key study programs. Now, this has resulted in a huge rumor out there. And one of the biggest rumors that is out there is that the postgraduate work permit have been extended until 2026. I do not know why anybody would believe that if it is not said by IRCC, if there is no official announcement. And hey, if I haven't made a video and if I haven't said it, I mean, you still really believe work permits have been extended? No, they have not been extended. All that is BS. It's all rubbish. Do not. And if you are watching those kind of TikTok reels and Instagram reels and YouTube videos and then believing, then you are the ones who should be blamed, because you're watching all trashy channels. So you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. What happened was later last month, the brilliant think tank at IRCC decided that they will change the PGWP requirement for some field of education. So right, if you're studying a 1-year or a 2-year diploma, in order to be eligible to get a postgraduate work permit, you have to be studying in a program which is in a field of education which is approved for postgraduate permit. Only then you will get a postgraduate work permit. So there are about 900 some zip codes, and only those codes will be eligible for the postgraduate work permit. So they came out, they changed, they removed 100 plus codes out of that list, and they added another 100 plus codes and said, okay, now these codes are added. These people will also be eligible to get postgraduate work permits, but these other hundreds won't get it. And then after 2 weeks, they came back and said, oh, no, you know what? We made a mistake. We go back to the previous list. We are not making any changes. So we are again following the same. Created a lot of confusion, created a lot of chaos. So as of right now, first of all, we are back to the old list. There is no changes to the postgraduate work permit eligibility in terms of the field of education. So whatever you are studying, that's all good. Whatever you are planning to study, all good. If you are in doubt, please check IRCC website. Please check the zip codes to see if your code is in the field of education code is eligible for the postgraduate work permit. But people made all kinds of videos saying that, hey, you know what, postgraduate work permits have been extended. No, they have not extended. Please do not listen and follow all that. You will end up getting into some sort of a trouble. Please don't do that. So no postgraduate work permits being extended at this point of time. That's basically all I have for you for this stream in terms of the updates. I hope you've managed to get some information. Do connect with us. We are there on everything. We are all social media platforms largely which are more relevant. YouTube, TikTok, with Facebook, Twitter, of course. And if you are watching all this, then hit that like button. Share it with somebody who will also find it useful. Subscribe to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant, and I obviously also provide immigration services. You're more than welcome to use our immigration services if you choose to. If you're looking for a immigration consultant, then hey, I'm a CICC immigration consultant. Please do hit us up. And you can drop us an email, support@askkubeir.com. If you are, this is the link, yeah. If you are interested in commercial services on draw dates, so the day express entry draws happen, if you choose to use our complete application handling, we also give you 15% discount only for people who have got a express entry draw on that particular day. So that's another good one we offer there. But yes, we also do immigration appeals, we do detention hearings, we do refugee applications, we do study permits, visit visas, PR applications, the gamut, and we specialize somehow in PFLs, procedural fairness letters. And I have seen the kind of letters you can't imagine for different things. Very recently, surprisingly, this is for all those people who thought they will get away with it. Fake French language examinations. Can you believe it? People actually purchased French language exams online by paying thousands of dollars, and they thought they will be able to use that in their application and get away with it. They got a PFL. They responded in a very silly manner, and IRCC said, okay, you know what? Come down to our office. Let's have an interview. Let's have a chat. And then we will figure out how much of a French and how much of a oui and bonjour you're going to do with us while we sit in person. And these people are freaking out. And there is not just one of them. There are plenty of such people. So if you're one of those guys, I feel bad for you, because a hefty 5-year ban is coming your way. And actually you deserve it, because you should have known better than to do something of this sort. So therefore, please do not indulge in any kind of activities which will get you kicked out in a royal fashion, because that's honestly, you will deserve it. But yeah, if you don't want to do it, please don't do it. Questions. Prateek, sorry. Do you think the CRS will drop to 490s for healthcare category in early 2026? I don't know. I mean, it's too far to say, and largely I do not know the exact breakdown of how many people are there in the express entry pool who are in healthcare. I do not know how many invitations IRCC will issue. I don't know whether they will change any knock codes. These kind of informations, we poor consultants or any lawyers, we don't have this. Yes, you manage to get some ATIP notes and that gives you some information, fair enough. Off and on chance, you might have that little bit of information, but no, none of us have this kind of information. Even to speculate, it's very difficult, because to speculate, you still need to have some data point. In this case, we don't have that either. Got biometric request after PR submission. I just found out that one work letter has all details, but the employer typed his designation, stamped and signed it, but didn't type his name. Problem. Well, yes and no. I mean, ideally, somebody has to write their name, right? Otherwise, there is no reference on who signed that document, and it basically invalidates the document by itself. So the idea would be to get a new document and then upload it to IRCC, telling them that previous one had this error and now you've gotten it corrected by the employer. That would be the right way to do it. Can I add my wife on my PR application after I receive ITA if CRS cutoff is below the combined score for both of us? File in the pool as non-accompanying spouse. The answer to the question is yes. If earlier your spouse was not accompanying, now you want to add your spouse as accompanying, and the new score after adding your spouse is more than the drawn score, then yes, you may add your spouse. There is no problem. Indian PCC done last year. Can I use if never Canada? I do not know what you mean by if never Canada. I'm assuming if you have never left Canada. So if you obtained a police clearance while you were outside from that country from where you're obtaining the PCC and you have never returned back to that country, then you may use that PCC as valid regardless of how long it's been. But do ensure to add a cover letter as part of your application with that PCC stating that you obtained it while you were outside, you have never traveled, you have never gone back, so they should consider it as valid. And if they do need a new one, then they should ask you for it so that you're covered. Do you have any services that I can avail post ITA application reviewed or help with that, but not complete filing? Yes, we do. We actually have fragmented services. We offer second pair of eyes services. It's a one-time document review where we go through all your documents, give you a one-time feedback about your documents. So we review it, we tell you if everything is complete, any changes, any additions, deletions need to be made. So you can opt for that. We also have a hold my hand services, which is basically right until the decision is made, verification, validation, checking of your documents, taking the screenshots of your, or rather you will share with us the screenshots of your application. We go through with it, check your documents, validate it, verify it, answer your questions, offer you consultations depending on what your queries might be. But yes, we have that hold my hand service as well. And then of course, we offer complete application handling services where we are your authorized representative and we handle your application on your behalf. Yeah, so what you can do is simply just, hey, drop us an email and we'll be very happy to help you from there on. Okay. 3 months of full-time paid work on implied status after postgraduate work permit. Job title was intern but meets CEC criteria. Will it count? Yes, it will count. The title doesn't matter. The job description is what matters. If it is on a valid knock code, it was paid, it counts. I have 1.5 years left in Canada, close work permit. How much time can I get if I switch to a different employer under the last IRCC rule? First of all, I'm not sure what you are referring to as to how much time can I get. There is no time that you will get. What will happen is that if you have a new job, you will have a new LMIA from the new employer. You will apply for a new work permit, closed work permit, and then you will raise a request through asking for interim work authorization to work for the new employer while your work permit application is in process. And they will give you the work authorization while they are processing your work permit. Once they process your work permit, you will of course have the validity of the new work permit. So I think there is a bit of a confusion in your understanding about this process. Should I show my travel to India while work and study in Canada as a separate entry under personal and address history? Do we need to show the address of Airbnb while moving multiple cities in Canada? Is triple mapping required? I do not know what you mean by triple mapping. Never heard of that concept, so forgive my ignorance. As far as travel is concerned, show your travel in your travel history. Those travels do not need to be mentioned in the personal history. Only activities need to be mentioned. Studies, unemployment, sabbaticals, trainings, education, work, any military services, all those will go in your personal history. Travel, as an actual travel, will go in your travel history. Addresses, if it is less than, let's say, a month, you don't need to mention those addresses separately. Because, for example, if you go for a holiday, you have gone to, I don't know, Italy, and you stayed in certain hotels and moved around, that is not considered as change of address. Your address still remains wherever you actually live. So those are just your short vacations, short holidays. Those do not constitute as change of address. Chances of healthcare 496? I honestly don't know. I hope it happens. If IRCC continues with a large size draws, then it's a possibility. Anything about Quebec draws? When can we expect one? I do not follow Quebec at all. By all means, please check Quebec immigration website. They will be able to tell you. File non-EEPR got EEITA can accept and file 2 applications. Yes, you can. At some point of time, IRCC is going to ask you to withdraw one of the applications, and then you can choose to withdraw one of them. Though, paying duplicate application fees and taking somebody else's spot, that feels a bit wrong. But of course, due to passport expiry, I received a shorter postgraduate work permit with remark valid to validity of passport instead of must renew. Can I still apply to extend? Yes, you can. If you received a shorter validity, you can definitely apply for an extension. Don't worry too much about the exact text of the remark. If you are eligible, you are eligible. For submitting proof of education for India, I have VES, degree and mark sheets, but no transcripts. Will these documents be enough? Yes, that's absolutely fine. You can either provide a transcript or you can provide mark sheets in lieu of each other. So that's absolutely fine. No problem. Follow up above for passport inquiry. I heard that they are rejecting applications if the original validity has expired by the time they review my file, which is absolutely correct. I mean, if you were supposed to get 5 months of extension and you have already crossed 5 months of implied status because you applied for extension, then they cannot give you another like 5 months from there on. So then they will refuse your application because you've already gotten the advantage of that 5 that they would have given you extension for. You've already gotten that advantage while being on maintained status, and therefore they will refuse your application. And then you can apply for restoration and change your status, or you can get a LMIA or whatever else other options you might have. My AOR is March, waiting for final decision. My closed work permit expires. Is it okay if I spend my new LMIA as web form to IRCC on my PR application, or send work permit extension AOR, or do nothing? Do nothing. Just wait for your final decision. That's all. If your closed work permit is expiring next month, then you can choose to apply for a new work permit as an extension, and that's absolutely fine. But of course, please maintain your status in Canada. Do not go out of status. And you don't need to send any of that to IRCC for their information. That's not required. IRCC checks if you have declined ITAs before. Any impact? No, there is no impact. But yes, they have access to all your previous record of whatever you have done. Everything has a digital footprint. These are all electronic digitized systems. They all create an electronic for all activities. So they do know why that you have done it, but they don't necessarily ask you why. Can I apply for Ontario's master's graduate stream and then get permanent residency through a non-express entry stream from India, currently on a postgraduate work permit in Canada, expires on Jan 2027? The answer to the question is yes, you can. You can get the nomination. Once you have submitted the nomination, you can submit your PR application, non-express entry, and you're absolutely free. You're more than welcome to leave Canada, go back to your home country, and wait for the application to be processed, to be completed. There is no requirement that you continue to be in Canada. Of course, if you have valid status, you can continue to be in Canada. You can continue to work because you have a postgraduate work permit. But if you don't wish to, you want to follow through with your application or process your application or continue your application while you're outside Canada, it's absolutely fine. Declared last position in foreign experience in study application. EE file has all positions for same work experience, likewise declared under my reference letter as well. Will that be an issue? So what you are saying is that you showed in your study permit your work experience as one single entry for 6 years. But in your EE application, you are showing them split under different positions for the same company. Will that be an issue? No, that is not going to be an issue, because in your study permit, you did disclose that you are working for this company and you showed it as one big block of 6 years. But in your PR application, you are rightfully, correctly explaining that you may have held different positions within the same company. Absolutely fine. No issues. You must do that. And what you're doing is absolutely correct. You must show different knock codes if that is applicable. You must show different positions, titles, works that you have done within the same company. And that's the right way to do it. Is it possible in PR application for background check to be completed without eligibility being complete? Well, what you are seeing on your tracker doesn't always reflect the actual way the process is happening or following. I have zero trust and faith in these trackers or what you see on the GC key. To answer your question, yes, the background checks may be processed before your eligibility is completed. And after your eligibility is completed, they may do it again if they have to, or for whatever the reason might be. But yes, it is possible. Currently on maintained status, can I apply bridge open work permit and spouse open work permit before they made the final decision? No, you cannot, because IRCC changed the rule of simultaneous applications for temporary residence. Earlier, you could do a simultaneous application, means your one application is for temporary residence and you can make another application while the first one is in progress. Now IRCC is very categorically stated that you can't do that, and any simultaneous application will be refused and you would have lost status by the time the first one has been refused as well. So therefore, wait for your dummy extension to be refused and then apply with restoration your new bridge open work permit. And in the meantime, because you meant put a dummy extension, raise a web form, send them the copy of your AOR and request them to consider your dummy as your bridge and approve it so that you can continue working. There have been instances where they have accepted, so it's worth a chance. Got promoted, job designation changed, same roles and responsibilities, only one letter of employment with start date. In e-profile added each title. What to do? Well, request your employer or find out or tell employer to mention both the job descriptions or mention both the job titles and mention that it was the same throughout your tenure. Or you can also explain it through your letter of explanation and add the same document for both the titles. Or you can provide your company's job description for both the titles to show that it is the same. But in any which ways, provide an explanation which will help with your faster processing. We are on dummy extension for past 7 months. ITA received in the last draw but can't submit documents since wife's 1 year experience will complete on August 26th. Won't be able to apply for postgraduate work permit if dummy extension is rejected. What to do? What to do is, once your dummy is refused, you will have 90 days to apply for restoration. And you obviously, you are completing your work experience and submitting your application before that 90 days. So even if your dummy is refused today, okay, from today, you will have 90 days. And within that 90 days, you will be able to submit your application. And because you will be able to submit your application within the 90 days, you will have your AOR. And then with that AOR, you can apply for restoration of status and your bridge open work permit and live happily ever after. Got PR in May, spouse on visitor record since February, apply inland or outland. He travels to US often. Should we get a visitor visa before applying? Well, first of all, congratulations, you got your PR. And spouses on visitor record, you cannot choose to apply inland or outland. Both are fine. Even if your spouse is inside Canada, you can still do an outland spousal sponsorship. There's no problem. It all depends. How frequently does your spouse want to travel? If your spouse wants to travel frequently, then you should not apply for inland. You should apply only for an outland application. And yeah, that's basically it. So depending on how frequently your spouse wants to travel in and out, that's what you will decide. Also note that inland application spousal is taking 30+ months for processing. Outland is much faster. Take all those into consideration. I got my IT at 5:22. Thanks for your guidance. One of my Canadian experience letter is signed by office coordinator, not by business owner. Does it work? Well, it works as long as that office coordinator has the authorization to sign those kind of documentation, then that's absolutely fine. If not, then you should get it from somebody who you were reporting to, who your manager was, who your supervisor was, or wait for your business owner. You can get that business owner's document, or you can update it later on once you've received it. Should I apply for police clearance certificate once I'm in the EE pool, or can I apply before? If address on my passport is incorrect from address on the Aadhaar card, will it delay my PCC? To answer your second question first, will it delay your PCC? Yes, it will, because in your police clearance application, you have to provide your correct address, the address on your passport. And if there is a change in address, then you have to provide additional proof of change of address as well, because for your police clearance certificate, there would be an actual physical police verification. So your address has to be correct. And if there is incorrect address, then obviously it creates a confusion. You have to then provide additional documents, etc. Now, when can you apply for PCC? Apply for PCC whenever you're ready. If you're applying the PCC from outside India, it will remain valid until your next visit to India. So if you're not going to go back to India anytime soon, by all means, apply for it whenever you're ready. Please bear in mind that it takes up to 2 months right now to get the police clearance done. So if you're ready, if you're expecting an ITA anytime soon, you may as well get this started. Started full-time on study permit, continued on work permit. LOE shows study permit date only. In e-profile, 1 entry from work permit or 2 SP work. 1 entry misreps. I don't understand your question at all. Okay. I really have no clue what you're asking me here. 1 entry misrep since LOE has SP date. I have no idea. So if you're confused about when you started your work experience, in your work history, mention the starting date, the date when you received your, or rather when you applied for your postgraduate work permit, because that is the date the work experience counts. And then with your work experience documents, always add a letter of explanation explaining the entire situation. I hope that's what we are looking at here. OINP in EO stream. I don't know what you mean by EO. Employer. I don't know what you mean. Invited 10 months ago, decision in progress, work permit ends in 12 months. Should I wait? Any better advice? Any hope? I can't tell you, I don't know anything about your profile to tell you anything. And any which ways on this particular live stream, I hardly can give you any advice in terms of what are your other options. As far as you're concerned, if you've already submitted an application, you have one month to go, 1 more year to go on your work permit, then you may as well wait for the decision. If not, then check for other options. If you are eligible, then by all means explore those. But if you already have an application in process and you still have work permit for 12 months, then you probably will wait. India, as I completed my 2 years here for foreign work experience, is this a good idea? Yes, absolutely. I absolutely support that idea. If you have completed 2 years of Canadian work experience, 1 year of foreign work experience, 50 points worth, certainly worth a give. I mean, certainly worth a shot. My spouse lacks 6 consecutive payslips from his previous Canadian employer. Is this mandatory? Can I provide employment letter and available payslips? Well, you should provide your payslips, as many as you have, if you can provide those. Even if you are missing some pay stubs, then wait for IRCC to ask you. If they're asking you, then you can provide bank statements that show salary credit. Of course, provide T4s, of course, provide notice of assessment, and you can always ask the employer to give you the duplicate pay stubs if it is at all possible. I have offer letter, experience letter, payslips for foreign work experience, but can't download bank statements due access issue. Will it be a problem? Not necessarily a problem, but IRCC can always ask you for it. And when they do ask you for it, then you will have to either explain or provide, either of the two. Landed as PR in 2000, but didn't meet residency obligation, went back to India. Do I need to renounce it before applying for Express Entry? You don't need to renounce it before applying for Express Entry. You can create your Express Entry profile. If you get invited in your PR application, when you are applying for PR, after you get your IT, then you can add your renunciation certificate, renunciation application as part of your client information or additional documents. And then, yes, you will have to renounce your previous status if you're applying for it again. Any chances of OINP Masters draw this year? Well, fingers crossed. I hope it happens, but I have no way of knowing whether they will conduct one or when they will do it. Designation was accounting clerk tier 4. However, duties and experience letter matches supply chain coordinator. Can I get points for this work experience? But it sounds very weird, right? Accounting clerk and supply chain coordinator are completely two different things. Why would your company give you a title which means something totally different? Yeah, IRCC is certainly going to ask you a question and will raise a flag on this. Basically, the NOC code is always determined based on your job roles and responsibilities and not on your title. So be prepared to explain the situation. I'm on postgraduate work permit, working from 26th June, and my work permit expires on... Guys, don't do any more super chats. I will not be able to complete this. Yeah, please don't. Oh boy. We'll go very fast now. I'm on postgraduate work permit, working from 26th June, and my work permit expires on 15 June. When do I become ineligible for CEC? Will it be June 2029? Well, it will be 2 years after your last working day in Canada, where you have completed 1 year of work experience. 2 years from then, you will no longer be CEC. TRV valid 5 months. Any problem? Travel back to Canada? No, no problem at all. You can certainly travel with a valid TRV. What are the chances of getting invitation with a score of 330 for NOC 4401 under in-demand skill stream for OINP? I can't tell you because I don't know how many people are there in the pool. But the best thing to do is to create your profile so that whenever the draw happens, you have a good chance. EE versus PR employer name mismatch. Is LOE enough? Well, LOE is definitely required if there is a mismatch. Otherwise, how will they know why there is a mismatch? Belt technician in Canada waiting for skill trade on PGWP, Indian bachelor's, good IELTS. Am I on the right track? Analytics, please. I can't give you analytics because I do not know anything about your profile except you saying that you are a belt technician. Please look at different NOC codes that might be eligible, that you might be eligible in. Check with Ontario's OINP skill trade stream, check on Express Entry trade stream. Improve your scores. That is very, very important. If you can improve your scores, then you might have a good chance. 8-month SDE job. I do not remote from Canada on PGWP, paid Canadian taxes, counts as CEC or FSW. I don't know what you're asking me here, but if your employer is Canadian based, means the person who's paying your salary, the institution who pays your salary is a Canadian entity, deducts your taxes, gives you a T4, then that's a Canadian work experience. Wrong title in EE, knock, same. Fix after ITA? Yes, fix after ITA, no problem. Explain. Me and my fiance are both in Canada, CRS under Common Law 522. Should I apply under that or wait for marriage? Well, if it's your common law partner, you have to disclose in your application anyways. And if you have to disclose, you have to prove, then you may as well apply with your common law included. Why wait for marriage? I mean, of course, do get married when you do get married. Shadi ka laddu, eat it, so you'll figure it out. But other than that, by all means, apply. CRS of 504 will be enough for STEM or skill trade. At this point of time, I think yes, it should be. Can't tell you exactly any certainty because we don't know what the pool breakdown for those categories is. If my bridge open work approved and then my PR is rejected, is my bridge open work permit still valid? Yes. If your bridge open work permit has been approved, it would be given a expiry date. And regardless of your PR application decision, even if it is refused, your bridge open work permit continues to be valid, continues to be active, and you can continue working. Offer letter and experience letter, job title is software engineer, but responsibilities matches with cybersecurity. What will be counted? Whatever matches with your job roles and responsibilities, that becomes your knock code. That's how you determine one. Can knock tier code for Canadian experience be updated before ITA since my knock duties closely aligns with the foreign experience? Yes, of course. The whole point of your express entry profile is to make as many changes as you want, whenever you want to make the own changes. So if you have a knock code which is a better match for your job description, by all means change it. And you can change your knock code even after ITA. Just explain, that's all. Undeclared ongoing education on study permit because the gap questionnaire only asked for issued certificate, now completed after 1 year of arrival. Can I claim points for PR? Yes, you can. However, as express entry study permit forms are concerned, they don't say only declares this, only disclose this. So if you had not finished your studies, means you did not have that graduation certificate or whatever the education was, and you did not disclose it, absolutely fine. You can claim points for it on the PR, no problem there. Got ITA applied as spouse accompanying. Can I submit my file now? Submit my wife's VES later using web form. Well, if you have your spouse accompanying and you did not get the points for your spouse's education because you don't have the VES, then there is no point of submitting it later on. But if you're claiming points for it, then you must provide the VES along with the application. Okay, 1 year cash experience in India, what documents to submit? Prove? Well, you provide your employment reference letters, pay stubs, cash vouchers, payment vouchers, debit vouchers, cash salary certificate, register copy, and a salary certificate. Applied postgraduate work permit in August, went to India, have remote job, converted to full-time in September, work remotely for same employer, returned after postgraduate approved, also have extra months, work later, works from September. Is that okay? Not able to understand your question because there's too many variables here. But if you have work experience and if you're able to prove that work experience, even if it is remote, and you have everything that establishes that it was remote work experience and genuine, then absolutely claim it, no problem. Spouse 1 year experience will complete on August, got ITA on dummy extension. If we get rejection today, is it okay to submit documents since we already got points for the experience? Yes, absolutely. There is no problem. You can submit your application. Your getting rejection on dummy has got nothing to do with your express entry application. You will be out of status. And in that 90 days, either you leave Canada, restore your status, or apply for bridge open work permit with restoration. I'm working for 9 months as pharmacy assistant. Now I'm getting better options. Do I receive invitations under healthcare if I change my field? Yes, you will, because as long as you have 6 months of work experience in a category within the last 3 years, which is continuous full-time work experience or equivalent, then you will continue to be eligible under the category draw. Nothing here. I'm currently left with only 1.5 years on my existing closed work permit. So if I switch to a different employer, can I stay and work in Canada for another 5 years as per the latest IRCC rule? First of all, there is no latest IRCC rule about 5 years. And if you are getting a new employer, it's a new LMIA and a new work permit, there is no 5-year rule based on whatever. There is no latest 5-year rule. So yes, when you get a new work permit, you can work for the duration of the new work permit. And whenever the new work permit is expiring, then the employer needs to get a new LMIA and you apply for another work permit and then again work for that duration of time. So it's an ongoing cycle until at some point of time they stop approving one. Following my postgraduate work permit, follow-up expires on 24th of August. I should be eligible for a 6-month extension until February 26th. If I apply in early August, they might not open my file until September. I still have time. I don't know what you mean here. Again, if your work permit expires in August 2024, and if you are eligible for an extension until February 2026, now, in this case, for example, if they approve your extension in January, they will extend it only till February 2026. If the decision is made on your extension application in March, then they will refuse it because your work permit would have been extended in February anyways, and you got the period of maintained status. So depending on what and when they will process your application, that is when they will choose to either approve it or refuse it. If they apply in August and they make a decision in December, they will approve it only till February. If they make a decision in September, they will approve it only till February. But if they make a decision after February 2026, then it will have to be a refusal because they can't give you any longer period of time because you already got the maintained status. I hope that clarifies. I applied for my inland PR spouse, non-accompanying spouse is inside Canada on her own status of student. Can I apply for Bridge Open only for myself, keeping her unaccompanied? Yes, you can. But you will have to provide a good reason as to why your spouse is not accompanying you. But yes, you can apply Bridge Open work permit only for yourself. That is not a problem at all. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. And therefore, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining in. It was, again, lovely catching up. It's always, always, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining in. And I shall see you next time. Until then, stay cool and stay forever hopeful. And I shall see you next time.